Sorry. How's it going?
Well, yeah, we wanted to come out and talk about it because we're really proud of it, and we worked really hard on it, and we wanted to, everything was all set up, so we said, well, let's just do it, and then if they call a strike, we'll go home.
Premieres aren't just for us to turn up. Premieres are for the crew, and they are also for every single person that can or can't be here to see that their work is being acknowledged and praised. It's a huge deal for me to be here. It's also a huge deal for me to be in lockstep with all of my peers in my guild and every other guild that matters. Both can matter at the same time. But yeah, I'm glad that we got to honor this movie in the way that we could before.
She was such an exhilarating character to even just read about. She was so exciting for that time, a sort of non-conformist and a bit wild, and forthright and not terribly warm, and it was just fun to play her. It really was.
It's such a critical moment in the life of the industry, not just for actors, but for everybody else and all the waves of the industry that this will affect. So it's a crucial moment. I know people are doing their best. I hope it's resolved as soon as possible.
We're very much the face of the acting world in this moment right here. So we have to be, if it's going to work at all, we have to be, part of it. And it's, I think, a very important time in these negotiations for both the writers and the actors to kind of set the ground rules for the future, because so much is changing so quickly.
I mean, I think get ready to feel like your bones are going to shatter. It's like it's not what you think. It is Trojan horse. It's really a horror thriller. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think it's an experience more than a movie. It's everyone that's watched it that I know, everyone that I know that's watched it just adores it, and everyone's debating and talking afterwards about it. So it's very provocative.
Why? How about because this is the most important thing to ever happen in the history of the world?
Yeah, it's very immersive. It consumes you. But that's the sort of work that I like. And then you just go and have a holiday afterwards. Right? Yeah.
My biggest way in was just researching her, and of course there isn't much. However, there are pictures that were taken of her during that time by Robert, and to me, someone like him, for his head to be turned, has to be by someone who is truly magnetic and magical and pretty intelligent. So I understood the message just by the short research that I did, and also coming to a set that was already alive before I got there. It wasn't very hard for me to figure out what I needed to do, and also just try and do right by the character and the real person. Well, movies don't need to have sex and love and intimacy to make a movie great. That's why it's even better that he has made everything that he's made without those lustful headlines. I think specifically in this, we're talking about a man who affects a lot of people and has been affected by a lot of people. And for me, just to play the slither of the piece that I did in this story was hugely impactful on my career, being able to watch all the cast work and Nolan, and also just to learn. It's been a huge privilege.
Thrilling, entertaining, amazing, challenging piece of work.
So Ernest Lawrence is one of the most kind of fascinating 20th century characters I knew nothing about. So when I got the role, I just went and read as many books as I could on him to kind of find out everything I could. The fact that he started the Rad Lab, the fact that he was the first person to kind of be in charge of this project, the fact that he was the first American physicist to win a Nobel Prize in his 30s. He was just a remarkable human being.
Well, it's a real person. I play Niels Bohr, who was one of the fathers of sort of quantum physics, debated with Einstein, some really significant figure in 20th century physics. So there's lots to read about. He's Danish, and he had lots of interest in sport, He had an interesting life. He had 6 children. It's such an important story. It changed the course of history in the 20th century. Its consequences stay with us today. It's an enormous power unleashed by mankind at its most inventive and sort of on the frontiers of knowledge. And yet the care with which it must be handled, the care with which we negotiate its power is alive. It's an issue right here, right now. So everything that Oppenheimer throws up, I think, is something that we can go away and think about in our own life, and also see the consequences of its misuse.
Well, I mean, you're hearing what people are saying about the film. It literally is a cinematic experience. They're using the M word, masterpiece. That doesn't matter. I want to be entertained, I want to be thrilled, I want to be transported, and obviously, I mean, Chris Nolan and IMAX are kind of synonymous at this point, so do yourself a favor, check it out big format.
I think his story would be exciting and resonant at any point, but right now we're dealing with a lot of issues in regard to not just nuclear technology, but other new technologies that present potential threats to all of us.
The thing that really, I think, persuaded these incredible talents to work on this movie was the script. Chris wrote an absolutely brilliant script, and I think that was the, I think they all were fairly keen to work with him, but the script was the clincher.
Yeah, well, I've seen this one already, so I'll definitely go see Barbie opening weekend. And when the whole thing came up, I think it's great that we're getting good movies back into the theaters and that they're really different. And Ben and I grew up seeing at least 2 movies every weekend, so let's get back in that habit again. That'll be good for everybody.
To be back and finally getting to share this with people now.
I mean, all of those who love this, who love the big screen, love coming out to the movies, we've been desperate to get back to a crowded marketplace where there's a lot of different offerings. And I think now we're finally here.
Are you going to go see Barbie?
Of course.
When we're done with all this.